Does anyone else want to learn how to play the Fremen? Because today we've got ourselves a Fremen how-to guide. Now, caveat that all of my content is based around 4-player, multiplayer, free-for-all games. You know, your mileage may vary in your Canleys and your 2v2s and your conquests and your skirmishes versus AI. But if you want to beat up your friends or maybe some strangers, this is why we're here for. So let's get going. Let's talk the Fremen. Chapter 1, Bless the Maker and His Water. An introduction to the Fremen. Who are the Fremen? The Fremen are the native inhabitants, the people that live on Arrakis, and they generally end up pretty oppressed by the various major houses that come in and try to take spice off them. Mostly the Harkonnens. Fremen hate the Harkonnens. They're kind of the good guys in the setting, in so much as they're at least the indigenous people who are just fighting to free their lands, though they do go on to kill like many billions of people in a religious jihad, but that's not important. We're talking about why they're cool. So why would we play the Fremen? We play the Fremen because they have a devastating early game. Fremen are well known for very strong early aggression. If you want to get out and start fighting and taking stuff over when you've got a small group of units, the Fremen are good at that. Why are they good at that? They're good at that because they've got some strong, all of their early game units are strong. Your warriors are good, your skirmishers are good, your infiltrators are good. All the stuff you can make early on, come out punching and do really, really well, trade really favorably with just about everybody else in the game. Fremen are known for their wide expansion. They get extra authority based on paying their spice taxes. They get some authority based on good counselor choices, and they will naturally just take up a lot of space on the map and spread out. Combined with their ability to be very fighty early on, they can do a good job of taking whatever they want early in the game. It gets a little trickier later on. Fremen are known for their sneaky tricks. There's a lot of opportunity to make the Fremen army stealthed, and so that the enemy can't even see them until they're right on top of them. There's unique ways to get into combat that people won't see coming. They can appear right in the back line when you don't expect them, just almost as if they were coming out of the sand out of nowhere. They're super cool. They're a lot of fun. Why wouldn't you want to play the Fremen? Well, you might not want to play the Fremen because they have a fairly narrow win condition. A Fremen player is going to win on hegemony pretty much all the time. You could kind of sort of threaten other win cons, but you're not very good at them, and we'll talk about that later, but almost every Fremen game is going to be based on you taking land and building up hegemony and trying to win that way. And because that is almost always your plan, everybody else knows what to do to stop you. They take some of your land back, they stop you from gaining extra hegemony, they stop you from booming up towards that 30k you need to win, and if that gets stopped, you're sort of out of options. So the Fremen sometimes get accused of being a one-trick pony because hegemony is sort of their only trick. We'll talk win cons later on, though. Why else you might not play Fremen? You might not play them if you don't like a bit of an end game fall off. It's also a sort of a common note in the community that the Fremen start off really, really strong and they're really difficult to contest early on in the game. And then at the end of the game, once other factions, especially the major house armies, start coming online, the fully armed battle station, the death ball, those can trade much, much more effectively versus the Fremen force. The Fremen still have plenty of tricks up their sleeve that they'll need to take advantage of to beat those forces, but you don't. That early game dominance does fall off, and you reach much more of a parity with a lot of the other fighty kind of factions in the game. So you don't have it your way all the time, just some of the time. You might play or you might not play Fremen because they have relatively simple building. You've only got 4 slots, and there's not a lot of things you super care strongly about on the map, actually. The Fremen economy is fairly basic, so you don't spend a lot of time doing the Sim City where you're saving up Plascrete and building out careful buildings here and careful buildings there. The Fremen are much more about using your army to get the best return on investment for it. Chapter 2, Bless the Coming and Going of Him. What makes the Fremen unique? Well, the Fremen are unique in a number of interesting ways. Number one, they have harvester teams. Instead of building spice silos, they just make these harvester teams, which are a unit that they run out on the map, the little donkeys carrying their little spice tents, and they go out and they camp out on spice fields. And that's how they do their spice harvesting. So this is cool for a number of reasons. It allows you to just walk out into uncontrolled territory and start harvesting the spice there. These guys do not get eaten by worms, so you don't have to worry about the constant worms coming up and eating them. You don't need extra thopters tasked on them to keep them in safe mode and things. So it's a relatively unique way to get it. Because it is easier to get on the spice all over the place and get extra spice, they are a bit less efficient than the big harvesters for many of the major houses. But they're still plenty good, and we'll talk more about them later. What else is unique about them? The Fremen are very unique because the neutral sieges on the map, they can make alliances with them even when they are outside of their territory. So normally, every other faction in the game needs to own the land that the siege is in order to... They could trade with other sieges, but in order to make that siege alliance and get the special benefit, other factions need to own the land. The Fremen don't need to own the land. We can make alliances with anybody, anywhere on the map, and get those special bennies. And we got all kinds of extra special bennies from it as well. We also get our main base has a relatively few districts on it, so once we have alliances with sieges around the map, we can build additional main base districts in those sieges. Kind of a cool little unique benefit there. The Fremen don't have airships, don't have shuttles to fly around, so they transport around by using a worm. By using thumpers to call worms. So how that works is you have a little place a thumper button. You have a finite amount of thumpers and they refill over time. But once you guys are standing on sand, not on rock, you can put a thumper down and it grabs everybody in that territory and it will give them a little worm ride. You put the thumper down, worm comes up, they hop on the back of the worm and they can ride somewhere else. Boom, everybody pops out. Super cool, super flavorful, really fun. A lot of interesting application for it, but also a bit of a downside. Currently we have 5 thumpers and we used up 1, and it's going to take a fair bit of time to refill, so you can't just jet across the world like you might if you had airfields for a major house. The Fremen got to be a lot more thoughtful about their thumper usage and their worm riding, but still it's really fun. The Fremen are also unique with their deep desert control. We'll talk about this when we get to the developments a little more. But if a Fremen surround every district, every village place around with these giant deep deserts, then they themselves gain control of the deep desert and will get all kinds of extra bonuses, and they can walk through it without using supplies, and it's just super cool. It's a very difficult thing to do, but if you can, it's also flavorful and fun and provides all kinds of fun benefits. What else? Fremen are known, like I said, for lots of stealth. They can basically make their whole army stealthed, more or less, all the time and forever. So if you like that sort of sneaky stealth gameplay, you want to just pop out of the sands and attack people before they even knew you were coming, the Fremen are really great at that. Boop, boop, boop. Let's get this Landsrat out of the way here. We don't care about that. Okay. Let's talk counselors. Let's step out for a second and talk counselors. If you were going to play the Fremen, who should you play the Fremen as? Who should be advising you? Well, it's a pretty clear-cut case, actually, but we'll go through them one at a time. You got Shamoom here, who gives you, if you're making at least 12 water in a village, you get minus Solari upkeep globally. Sounds decent. And you get extra water for empty building slots. Okay, so you can get extra water, and if you get a ton of water, it makes your upkeep cheaper globally. That sounds pretty decent. In practice, it is a little more difficult to get to work. She basically will only ever kick in her main ability if you've got a 4 or a 5 wind region. Minus 3% Solari upkeep globally is not a ton by itself, so you'd want a whole bunch of regions doing that. Fremen already do not really have a problem with water, so getting a whole bunch extra water is fine, but not game-changing. Shamoom, bottom of the pack, in my opinion. Jamis is a bit better. Jamis is pretty cool, gives you authority when liberating an enemy village. This is super useful, both early in the game if you're just clearing the enemy villages away from your borders to get a little extra authority, and really useful in the end game if you can get a couple of, you can attack someone, liberate some of their lands to put them back, and the process of liberating their lands gives you the authority you need to be able to boom your own hedge. He also gives you a flat sort of military bonus for fighting in other lands, plus 10% damage. That's plenty good. Trading authority for manpower is worthless. Never do that. Jamis good, but still third. Number 1 is our girl, Mother Romalo. Mother Romalo can incite rebellions on lands resolutions, which is fine, it's whatever. It uses a lot of authority, which we usually don't want to pay, but if we're in an endgame scenario and we're capped out on authority and we don't have any uses for it, inciting rebellions is super good, though very expensive. The main draw is the 3 intel production and 0.5 authority production per deployed harvesting team. Ooh, it's really good. Anything that gives you authority is great. This gives you authority pretty much right off the bat early on in the game. Intel is much lower than it used to be in previous versions, so anything that gives you extra intel allows you to use a lot more operations. So Mother Romalo alone can like almost entirely power your entire operation economy. She's going to give you a ton of intel. You're sure to have 3 or 4 or 5 harvesting teams paying you out a ton of intel, a ton of authority. Mother Romalo is your number 1 pick. Please take her. Number 2, I think the number 2 pick is Stilgar, who used to be the must-have pick, and I think is still kind of must-have-ish. Though if you didn't take Stilgar and you took Jamis, I would understand. I just wouldn't agree with you. Stilgar reveals all sieges at the start of the game, which is very useful for a number of reasons. And then further, when you ally with those sieges, those normally an alliance with a siege costs you an amount of your authority income, and Stilgar makes it cost half as much, which you're gonna want to be allied with almost all the sieges eventually, so Stilgar makes that cheaper, so in effect he kind of counts as giving you more authority, because you were gonna ally with them for sure, and he's gonna make that cheaper. The main benefit of having all the sieges revealed at the start of the game is an economic one. You can immediately start trading with all of those sieges right at the beginning of the game and getting the benefits of all kinds of stuff from them, be it plascrete or money or spice or manpower or who knows what. You'll know where they all are on the map, so you could see, you don't have to hunt them down via points of interest or via probes and things. They'll be available for you, maybe it's the very end of the game and you haven't really been to the other side of the map at all, but you'll know the sieges are there and you'll be able to use them. Stilgar is great. You should definitely take Stilgar. Stilgar and Mother Romalo are our choices for this guide, at least. The other ones are fine. You could live with Shamoom, you could live with Jamis, but you don't need to. Back to our Fremen Empire here. Let's talk expansion. When you're expanding early in the game, you can kind of ignore spice field regions. Normally, just about everybody else in the game immediately wants to take their spice field right away so they could start harvesting. Well, the Fremen don't need to do that. The Fremen, at the start of the game, can just make a harvesting team and send it over to walk over there. They don't need to take it if they don't want to. They could use that precious early game authority to take other stuff nearby, other stuff that might be more useful, Come down here, grab this abandoned Imperial station, make some money, make some knowledge right off the bat, and then still get the benefit of the spice. The caveat to that being, if there are quirks on the village that give you bonuses to production. This one doesn't. This village gives me water or cheaper buildings, so I don't really need it. What I can do is I can leave this uncaptured and then just pillage it all game long and to get extra money from it that way. If it said something like 20% more production from economic structures, that does affect your harvesting team in it. So in that case, it's sometimes a good idea to come in here and take it if you can get bonuses to your spice harvesting from it. But otherwise, you can be pretty comfortable leaving it alone and just using it as another base around you that you could pillage, and you could focus on other high priority stuff. Typically early in the game, you want to be pushing towards the borders. Thanks to your strong early military, you generally are the one who gets to decide where the borders begin and end. If there is contested territory, you're here and they're there, but you think that you should be there, well, you can probably win those early fights and make that territory yours. So use the fast and aggressive expansion of the Fremen to establish favorable boundaries for yourself, favorable borderlands. Of special note for expanding are these ruins points of interest. Now, everyone in the game can get stuff from these. Normally, people spend plascrete to get authority or explore it with a military unit to get plascrete. But the Fremen uniquely get explore it with a military unit to get even more authority. which is a huge boon. You're not playing the Plashkeet, and you're getting more authority. All you gotta do is walk a guy out to it. You should always be on the lookout for ruins for Fremen. They're one of the best things you could find. Just a flat, big old chunk of authority to help you expand faster. We love them. You should look in other people's lands. If they've got some deep in their lands, maybe it's worth trying to send a stealth guy walking all the way through their lands to steal their ruins. It's really good. Definitely look for ruins. You can run super lean on militia with Fremen. One of the nice benefits of Stilgar and just being the Fremen in general is you're gonna be buddy buddy with the Sieches. Stilgar's gonna tell you where all the Sieches are, so you could start trading with them right away. You'll get developments that'll increase your standing with them. And when your standing is good with a Siege, it stops sending raiding parties to attack you. So if you know where all the Sieches are and you know you're buddies with them, you don't have anybody that's going to attack your villages. You could go a long time without building any militia to defend your villages, and that is manpower that you can then use to power that early aggressive military again. Eventually, you will want militia in villages because you don't want an endgame situation where someone is able to sneak in and cause all kinds of havoc and trouble. So eventually, you want your militia up. But early game, you can live for a long time with a skeletal crew, if anything. Of special note, we do want to beware. Well, let me step back for a second. We like to leave these gaps, these untaken spaces, anything that doesn't have a special region in it, anything that's got lousy quirks that we don't particularly care too strongly about, anything with a bad wind that we're not incentivized to take. We like to leave those alone, and we leave them alone for a couple of reasons. One, because we can always take our army and just keep pillaging them to get some value out of them. And two, leaving gaps in your lands are things that you can come back to late in the game and annex cheaply because they'll have a low penalty for distance from your main base, and then those can power your end game hegemony booms. So we like to have space untaken, especially if you could make it be something juicy like a special village, a special region, because that'll be even more of an end game boom to your hegemony. But oftentimes you do want the special regions just to get the whatever benefits they might be giving you, right? You're not going to skip the Well of Riches for a late game because you want that bonus processing plan all game long. But you might skip something like the Moondew Vale, which is not going to give you a huge benefit. So we like gaps in our lands. We would rather take the lands that are further away from us and save the ones that are close for us for taking later in the game. And then on that note, we want to be careful about the Atreides, of course, because they can peacefully annex from just about anywhere in the world. Maybe if we push the Harkonnens back here, and this is all Fremen land, but we leave some of these gaps, well, the Atreides could very easily peacefully annex this base, from across the map right behind us, and build an airfield and fortify it, before we can even really do anything about it. So you always want to look out when you're leaving gaps in your lands to make sure people can't sneak in and take them from you. Likewise, if we are leaving spice fields empty, are uncaptured so that we could grab them with our harvesting team. If we have a Vernius neighbor, Vernius might also leave those spice fields empty and try to grab them with their harvesters, because they can also harvest off of their own territory. And if that is the case, it is a first come, first serve scenario. Whoever gets there first gets the spice, unless they get killed or chased off of it. So just be aware there could be, struggles for the neutral regions from Vernius, and we want to make sure the Atreides aren't sneaking up on us with the peaceful annexes either. We also want to be aware that everybody gets native customs as a tech for them, almost everybody, but the native custom says minus 30% authority to annex a village in a region with a siege. That's a huge authority discount, and since you know where the sieges are, you're not necessarily incentivized to take them because you can already trade and ally with them even if they're not in your lands, but you can make them your lands really cheaply, and because you know where they all are right at the start of the game, you can get that bonus really easily and get cheap annexes of sieges. So those are often useful, a quick way to expand. Let's talk economy. What does an early game economy look like? What does scaling up the economy look like for the Fremen? Well, one of the things I like to do is the fast trading. So I mentioned this earlier with Stilgar. As soon as you start the game, As soon as you start the game, you don't have anything at all, and you got to go get, your first spice and whatnot. Well, Stilgar starts the game with you seeing everything around the map. So you can go over here, and you could just start trading. You start with 20 water, and you probably want to keep 8 of it or so for your early forays. You don't want your very starting troopers running out of supplies. But you could very easily come out and make 2 or 3 different trades. Start trading immediately for some plascrete. Start trading with some more plascrete. Do a trade for some spice over here. And then as you add more water to your empire, keep doing these extra trades. And it can be a pretty big economic boost, especially because you're grabbing them so early in the game. Trading with the Sieches is generally not a big deal, but Stilgar kind of makes it a big deal because he gives you such quick access to it. And a big benefit of the Fremen is their wind traps, which pay out a lot of extra water above and beyond what normal people can get. So the Fremen wind traps are going to give you a lot of water. You're incentivized to build wind traps everywhere, and you can use that water to get those early trades set up, and that can really boost an early game economy. Wind traps, we basically want to build them everywhere. We build them everywhere for a couple of reasons. One, we like lots of water for the trading. We like lots of water for being able to walk long distances to take the stuff we want. We like lots of water for being able to go beat up our neighbors if we need to. And there is a critical development that we'll look at a little bit later that basically says you'll get knowledge per wind trap, or per wind strength in a region with a wind trap. So our wind traps are sort of doubling as our research posts. Fremen can get a really big income of knowledge just by building wind traps everywhere they go. So usually a good idea, even if the wind is kind of lousy. Even if it's a 3, you probably want a wind trap. If it's a 2, maybe you still want a wind trap. It's not a terrible idea. They're twice as good as everybody else's water collectors. So wind traps everywhere is a good rule of thumb. You can also invest in the early harvesting crew for your teams. Normally you wouldn't do this with other people because your early harvesters are likely to be eaten by worms before you have, extra ornithopters to put on them to put on safe mode, but your harvesting crews will never be eaten by worms, so you could freely just add extra crew to them right away and whenever you get tech to do that. Go ahead and crew up your harvesters. There's no downsides to it. We are slightly less interested in plascrete than a lot of factions. Some factions are extremely plascrete hungry. The Fremen, not as much. One, we're probably going to get a decent chunk from our trading. In this case, we're making trades with a couple different sieches that are sending us plascrete. 2, we're just not going to use as much because we don't have that 5th building slot, so we don't have to pay the extra money to get that building, and we don't have more stuff to build. So there's just less opportunity to burn through a lot of plascrete. Fremen can almost get by with no plascrete factories at all, though 1 or 2 early on that you then get rid of later is no big deal. But you can run lighter on the plascrete, which is good because it is then less cost on your upkeep and more space for other stuff. So don't worry too much about the plascrete. You can get by with less as the Fremen. But we do like the manpower, so we do want recruitment offices up. Manpower, of course, is the lifeblood of the army. All of your early guys cost only manpower and then daily upkeep. So if you are fighting somebody or planning to fight somebody, in addition to just your early guys being good, the way you win early fights is usually by having more guys, and you have more guys by having more manpower. And if you lose an early fight, but you've got better manpower, you might win the next fight or the fight after that. You can oftentimes, if you are well invested in manpower, you can sort of attrition, beat people down with that extra manpower income by just making more guys than they can make. A lot of people run very lean on manpower early on because it's expensive and because they're not necessarily expecting to go aggressive, like the Fremen usually are. Another unique building the Fremen have are these ceremonial caves. So the Fremen don't get fuel cells from their energy sources in the map. Rather, the energy sources allow them to make ceremonial caves. Now you should note that these cost an upkeep of spice straight out of your spice harvesting, which is usually not a big deal. It tends to average out to roughly 2 times the amount of upkeep. So if you're sending 6 spice, you're usually losing about 12 solari in upkeep there, which is not the end of the world. And they give you this really unique benefit of plus military power, plus 5% per ceremonial cave. These are super, super good. Ways to increase your power are relatively rare in the game, but not for the Fremen. Anytime the Fremen get access to an extra energy source, they get a boost in their military power by getting ceremonial caves. We love ceremonial caves. We get them whenever we can and build them everywhere we can. The Fremen really love special regions. Everybody loves special regions, but since the Fremen are, like we said, you're that one-trick pony, you really want that hegemony to win the game, well, there's no better way to get hegemony than owning special regions, both from the extra 1,000 that a special region gives you, and also because of the capability to later put a craft workshop and get some daily hegemony out of it as well. And as I mentioned earlier, even if you don't take it, even if you kind of maybe just surround it and you save it for later, that is also good for the Fremen. Fremen love their special regions. What else we got? We like taking special regions to keep them safe. We value fast craft workshops. So of course the valuable trinkets allows us to create craft workshop buildings. We like craft workshop buildings because they give us a daily generation of hegemony. And hegemony is how you win the game. And craft workshops are one of the best ways to get hedge. So there's two schools of thought, right? You can, because you need hegemony to win, one school of thought is you grab as many special regions as you can, and you build craft workshops in them right away, and that starts ticking up your daily plus hegemony, moving you ever closer to your win condition. The second school of thought is that oftentimes if you open this faction summary, if you want to know who you should be fighting, you should usually be fighting whoever is making the most plus hegemony per day, because that's the person that's probably going to race to the hegemony win condition before everyone else. So you get a big target on your back by having early craft workshops. Maybe you can handle that target. Maybe you think it's worthwhile. It comes a bit of a feel for the game, right? A bit of maybe the meta of the people that you play with. Oftentimes in a lot of very high-end competitive games, everyone will rush for craft workshops as quick as possible. Mostly because if someone goes craft workshops and you don't, then you're falling behind and you're not going to be able to keep up. But if someone goes craft workshops and no one else does, then everyone else just kills the guy who went craft workshops, right? So this is, I don't know, there's sort of a strange prisoner dilemma around it. But the gist of it is craft workshops, very good. You will need some eventually to push towards your win con. So keep them in mind. Major buildings are also interesting with the Fremen because we don't have any fuel cells, and normally major buildings take a requirement of fuel cells. So a lot of other factions need to decide if they're building major buildings or if they're saving their fuel cells for their mechanical units or maybe their flagship. Well, the Fremen don't care. They could build all those things. They could build their flagship. They could build their major buildings anywhere they want. So you almost always want an experimental furnace up relatively quickly. It's a big economic boost to everything around you. Another note that stuff that affects adjacent regions like experimental furnace or spice silos does affect harvesting teams in those regions as well. So feel free to build your experimental furnace in between land you don't even own if you can boost your harvesters there. What else can we build as major buildings? Oh, the recycling plant is absolutely critical to get as early as possible. Fremen start with, I think, no spaceship parts. Is it 0 that they start at maybe? A lot of people start with... So Fremen get spaceship parts, other factions get guild favor, but it's the same thing. And you need 100 of it in order to get your flagship out, and the Fremen would really love to have their flagship. So they need their recycling plant up extra early, as fast as they can. And then they also have unique trades in it too. Other factions need to trade spice or influence. The Fremen can trade Solari or Plascrete, which is much cheaper. Usually you could happily trade Plascrete unless you're still using a lot of it, in which case you could trade Solari. 30 Solari per parts is a great deal. And then after you've got your flagship out, after you've got as many spaceship parts as you want, you could also do this little trade back where you trade your parts back to get authority or intel, both of which are great deals. So at the end of the game, you could switch those back and get a nice benefit for any of the extra spaceship parts you've got around. So we like major buildings a whole lot. We want to build them out pretty much as quickly as we can. The only thing we hold back a little bit on is the military factory, which is a large jump in expenses of Solari upkeep. We do want this for sure, basically every game, but you need to make sure your economy can handle the hit, right? You come up, you check your Solari. We're paying 254 Solari a day to keep our army active. If we build this military factory plus 50% more, so suddenly we're going to spend an extra 125 Solari a day just to maintain our military, which is a lot, right? It would put us pretty deeply in the red currently if we did that. So we do want a military factory, but you need the economy basics down before you get it. Otherwise, we definitely want a Shai Hulud temple somewhere that gives us thumpers. We probably even want a research station if you have any research hubs around, though you usually don't need them. You can get by research with just your wind traps. All right, that's our major buildings. Whew. Boy, we got a lot to go through, folks. Let's keep going. We talked about adjacency bonuses. Yes, let's talk some development. Let's look through our development tree here. We got a lot of very unique special stuff. Let's look at them. I tend to like a relatively quick Freedom Fighters. Freedom Fighters pays you Solari per neutral or Fremen village on the map. And early in the game, there are a lot of neutral villages on the map. So this is sort of a nice early economic boost. And you want a bunch of stuff after it later on, so there's no harm in getting it early. One that is somewhat contentious is Arrakis's secrets. As soon as you research this, it shows you the position of every spice field on the map, which is pretty cool. It allows you to know should you be building more harvesters right away and sending them out to grab these extra spice fields, so you could jump on these spice fields from a very, very early time and start getting some benefit from having them before other people are able to expand and sort of take the spice fields back that maybe are rightfully theirs. I personally usually do not get this early on. Some people like it in order to get a faster economy going, but I've got a lot of other stuff that I worry about. I worry about going up to Desert Wisdom relatively quickly, which is what gives us knowledge per the wind strength on the wind trap regions. That's very important to getting your knowledge going fast. I also like just the stuff that makes authority come in faster or go out slower so that we can power our expansion. The native customs, the outpost logistics. These are great early choices for the Fremen. There's a bunch of cool blue stuff, but I don't think it's particularly critical. Fremen Solidarity is usually a good choice just to get a little extra faster recruitment speed and get some faster alliances with sieges. No problem grabbing that early. And then we like a lot of the red stuff, of course, because we're going to be fighting. The critical tech is always this third column here, because this is what gives us the extra command points to have larger armies or more training slots. You will always want this pretty fast. This middle tree is also really interesting for the Fremen. So it gives us water and makes us run faster in neutral territory. That's really cool. We're going to be doing a lot of that, running around, grabbing expansion, going to attack other people. Desert Trekker is very good. Stalwart Alliance is also very good. This did get nerfed. So this is if you start to liberate an enemy village, if there is a friendly siege that is in that region or adjacent to it, they will send out troops to help you liberate the village. Super fun, super flavorful. This got nerfed. It used to send out tons and tons of guys. Every time you liberated something, it would send out another friendly siege army. But I think only like one could be active at a time now, so it's not as good as it used to be. But this unlocks our second gear slot in the armory, so we will always take this eventually. Idli a la Crab, also fantastic. It makes your worm riding faster. It makes your worm riding stealthy. And when you get off your worm, you do more damage when you get there. This is a critical end game fighting ability, really, so that you could be surprising people with your worm riding and get extra stealth damage on them. So what do we pick? Well, let's talk a little bit more. Sand Brotherhood is also really critical because it unlocks the Bazaar building and it makes your siege trades even better and increases your Solari production. Shared Transcendence is really good. Like I said, we want all the ceremonial caves we could get our greedy little fingers on, so this makes them a little more valuable to us. Riches of Arrakis, also pretty good because we're going to be prioritizing grabbing as many special regions as we can. They're going to help pay us out more money. I oftentimes will neglect going too deep on the left side here, which is extra crew and extra spice production. Spice production is not really what the Fremen are good at. You can kind of do it, but it's not my playstyle with them, at least. It's not bad, but I've got other priorities. If you wanted to do any sort of diplomatic stuff, you need to go down into the Sand Diplomats. because Sand Diplomat says each siege that you are allied with gives you +1 influence production. This is super strong, actually, from a political standpoint, because it's relatively easy to ally with a bunch of sieges, and a bunch of extra influence from doing so can give you a very big boost pretty early in the game. Also, the Al Gaib Temple is a really good building to get, but we'll talk about that when we get to the main base. The Siege Network is really just for extra counterintelligence if you don't want to get assassinated. No big deal. Landsrad support is if you want to upgrade your max influence per agent in the Landsrad slot, and max influence is very important if you do try to do any sort of government political push, which the Fremen are not particularly good at because they don't have any innate votes. They just have a strong influence production. And then this right side stuff is all if you want to be assassinating, which Fremen are good at, but is not my play style. And last two of note here, the Heir of Arrakis. So this is the surround desert tech. If you surround a desert, it doesn't do anything for you really until you research this tech. And if you have surrounded a desert and you have this tech, suddenly it does a whole lot. 20% more authority production if you've got a deep desert. And then every single village adjacent to that desert gets 2 more time, like an extra 2 of each quirk that they already have, right? So if it says you get +3 for economic buildings, if it's adjacent to a deep desert you control, suddenly it's +9 per economic buildings you control. And it's a little bit of a militia boost, and it unlocks investment offices. Investment offices are generally good, but we don't go out of the way for them necessarily for the Fremen. But if you can ignore this pretty much forever, unless you're going to get a deep desert surround, and then you want to get this right away because it's a huge boost. Deep desert surrounds are tricky though. And last one we really like to talk about here is the Desert Watchers. We don't even care about the militia slots, though militia slots are always nice. What we care about is all ally units in Fremen territory have stealth. You get Desert Watchers, and as long as your army is in your territory, every single person is stealthed all the time, forever. It's pretty amazing. Suddenly enemies don't know where you're vulnerable. They don't know when you're coming to defend yourself. They don't know where they could safely attack. It's so cool. It's not a critical must-have, but it's really fun, and you certainly want it by the end of the game. If you're going to be in a scenario where you need to defend yourself, you definitely want that. What does my tech path look like in the game? Usually if I'm starting, I grab like composite materials, freedom fighters, maybe a local dialect studies, over to the Solidarity. Then I come back probably for Desert Wisdom, and then from there I decide if I need a little more fighty or if I need a little more expandy. You know, if I spawned real close to someone, maybe I start grabbing some good red stuff, and if I spawned with a lot of land to grab, maybe I grab native customs and outpost logistics so that I could expand even faster. The other one we didn't talk about is sky gazing, which lets you make mobile turrets and take less damage from air units. Totally unimportant unless there starts to be a prevalence of air units, in which case you would pick that up. All right, that's enough about developments. Excuse me. Let's talk to surround or not surround a desert. Well, usually the answer is not surround a desert. You would love to. You would love to have every region around the desert and get a huge bonus to your authority and stronger militia and better quirks and everything. But almost every time, certainly this is no excuse me, this is no exception. Almost every time that's going to put you in a blood contention with a rival, right? The smugglers could not allow us to have the village directly next to their base. That is a blood feud that must happen for them to survive. They cannot allow you to have this, and we cannot control our deep desert unless we have that. So if for some reason the smugglers spawned like way further north and we're not right next to this, adjacent to this desert, maybe we got a chance to surround it and we could try that. But usually it will just be too close to other people's main bases. No one's going to let you take and hold a land that is adjacent to their main base. That is a forever feud, and we want to avoid forever feuds with the Fremen, and they're relatively easy to make, so we got to be careful there. So grabbing deep deserts, yes, we'd like to, but we probably won't be able to. Let's talk main base buildings. Your main base is So main base building is both simple and complicated for Fremen. Complicated because it's different, simple because you'll know what to make. In your main base, you start by building your administrative hall, giving you extra authority production for the most part. We don't care about the gold even, but that's fine. The second building you get is the Bazaar, which you unlock from your Sand Brotherhood. The Bazaar is a unique Fremen building that counts as one of anything. So it's a wild card. It could be economic, military, or statecraft for the purpose of bonuses. Excuse me. And it also gives us bonuses to our active trades. And we already know if we're taking Stilgar, we're going to have all kinds of trades up. And then the Bazaar just multiplies those and makes those much, much better for us. So we build this, then we build this, and that immediately kicks out our insurance banks, which is fine. Not a big deal, but it gets us going. The next three things we build are red stuff down below. And then, if we want to build anything else, we need to do it in sieges around the map. So sieges will all have a different colored alliance. So you see this one is blue, this one is red, this one is yellow, yellow, red, blue, blue, red, yellow. Yeah, so there's 7 sieges around the map, and they will randomly be 3 of one color and 2 of each of the other colors. So once we make an alliance with someone and we're at 10,000 hegemony, you can build your main base buildings in a siege. Well, that's a great deal. Excuse me, I'm sorry about the cough. The downside is we're not going to get any more of these district bonuses by having multiples of stuff, but the good thing is we can just build all that up. Most of the other stuff. What we hate to see is too many of the red ones, because we're going to put most of our red districts in our base. We're not going to build any red districts out and about in the world. Once we get later on in the game, we're going to come back to our administrative hall, we're going to get rid of it, we're going to destroy it, and then we're going to build our 4th red district in our base. That'll give us the 3 red bonus and the 2 red bonus. That is what we need in order to buff our military up. And the Fremen always want their military as buff as possible. And then we're basically going out and we're building whatever else we can get out in the world. You know, we'll probably want our administrative hall back up somewhere. Chone Branch is fine, but Fremen aren't really Spicer kind of people. Mason's Guild is usually very good, not necessarily for the plascrete production, but we will have all of our villages built out pretty quickly with the 4 buildings, so it could pay out a lot of money. Recycling vats, usually you will not need. You should have enough water without recycling vats. I would avoid that in most circumstances. For the blue stuff, so red stuff we already said was all going to be in our base. For the blue stuff, we like everything really. Research centers are great early on to give you that extra knowledge and extra early hegemony. You do want to make sure you get rid of your research centers before you get too late, because they sort of artificially inflate your hegemony. And you don't want to look too dangerous too early. You want to be able to have that hegemony boom in your back pocket. We'll talk about the boom later. So what we like, research center good early, but then you get rid of it and you replace it with something else in the mid or the late game. We really like an Al-Gaib temple. So this is another one that requires the Sand diplomats to unlock. This gives us extra max influence for sieges and even more money if we're trading with sieges, and we already established that we'll be doing that, so leaning into that's good. Intel agencies, fine. We don't care too strongly about it. We're not going to need the 4th and 5th operation slots, and extra agent recruitment is not that big of a deal for us. We'll have plenty. The embassy is also fine. Extra influence production, if you like that, and if you have treaties with other people, the embassy can be useful. If you have a money treaty with people, if you have tech treaties or whatever, the embassy juices those up a little extra and can be useful. But because normally this benefit of this for everyone else is extra Landsrat standing, and because we don't care about Landsrat standing at all because we're the Fremen, that the extra influence production is no big deal. Let's talk about the Landsrat real quick then, while it's on the mind. The Fremen have no Landsrat standing ever. It doesn't come up for them. So they never have any base votes, but they will generate a lot of influence. So you have relatively little impact in anything in the Landsrat unless you want to invest in getting more influence and then save it up to dump it on things. You will never be as competitive as main houses or anyone else that tries to lean into it, but you can do some neat stuff. And then also of note, you can't get any of the charters except the governorship which the Fremen become eligible for if they have all sieges allied and they control a certain amount of regions. I think it might be dependent on map size, but here it says 13. If I was allied with all the sieges and I had 13 regions, I would suddenly be eligible to be the governor. And that eligibility could come up way faster than a lot of other factions. So there is kind of this pie in the sky governor rush for the Fremen. But, spoilers, it almost never works. We'll talk about it a little later on. Know that you'll just have relatively limited influence in the Landsraad. And if you felt like you needed it, you've got to invest in the stuff like the Sand Diplomats, maybe the Landsraad support, probably the Al-Gaib Temple, in order to increase your influence cap, in order to save up enough to influence votes, because you don't have those base votes to work with. Whew. All right. We talked main buildings, we talked bazaar, yada, 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 all good. Chapter 3, May His Passage Cleanse the World. Let's talk operations real quick. The Fremen have 3 unique operations. All are good. First one, hiding tracks. Ally units in the region and all adjacent regions gain stealth. So, if you guys weren't already stealthed, you can drop this somewhere, and then in this region and in all of these adjacent regions, any of my units walking through them are stealthed. Just keep everybody stealth. So boom, there's your sneak attacks all the time. It's only 100 intel. You'll probably have a ton of intel from Mother Romalo, so we use hiding the tracks constantly. It also slows down enemy units in that area, which can be sort of situationally useful. It's a relatively small slow, but it's something. We use hidden tracks all the time just to make sure we're getting the first punch on people. Second one is hidden thumpers. So this is so you cast this in a region, or in the region you're leaving, or a region you're going to, and it makes any thumpers used from or to that other region not come out of your thumper stocks, your limit. So this is like a sort of a free thumper. So we will use this pretty regularly, especially if we anticipate doing a lot of worm riding. You know, if it's near the end game and the Harkonnens are attacking over here, and then the smugglers are over here, and then the ECAs are up here, and we need to be, whack-a-mole riding around to do different stuff, we need to invest in these hidden thumpers, or we could run out of thumpers and then just be stuck not having to walk somewhere, which is tricky. So hidden thumpers, plenty good. Last one, awaken the people. This has mixed reviews. I think Awaken the People is pretty ho-hum, kind of boring, and I've had other people tell me that they think it's super, super strong. So Awaken the People starts a rebellion in a village. So you just click anywhere on the map, up here. Where's the Emperor got it? Or Spice Field for the Harkonnens. Boom, we click over here. Instant rebellion, it pops out rebels. The rebels do not fight the militia. They stay there and they lock down this region. This region doesn't do or produce anything until he sends his army of troops and fights and kills all of these rebels. So one nice thing you can do is you can use this to economically stifle people that are already busy, right? If I use it in the Harkonnens and they're not busy, they'll just send their army over and they'll fight them and they'll clear it out right away. But if I'm already fighting the Harkonnens up here, or they're in trouble with the ECAs over here, I know that they're busy or distracted, and especially if they've got a long empire that's strung out, I could drop a rebellion back here. I could prep another one, drop a second rebellion, and then those regions are kind of locked down and not producing, and you could cause a lot of economic damage and stretch people too thin by the Awaken the People rebellion. It is very expensive at 500 intel and 500 Solari, but it is another tool in the tool chest, so that's interesting to use. How about we talk units? We've come far enough. Time to talk about what makes the Fremen special. The Fremen have a warrior as their basic unit. Warriors are great. They are your basic tanky, hard to kill guys. And you make a couple of them early on because you can never really have enough early in the game. They kind of get replaced a little later on by Fedaykin, but warriors are still always going to be the tankiest unit you have. Your Fedaykin are a bit squishier. So warriors are great as just a general all-purpose frontline military unit. Your second unit is your skirmishers. Skirmishers are amazing. They do relatively low damage, but they have this benefit of plus 15% damage per enemy in the damage radius. The damage radius is a relatively big circle, and you get armory bonuses to make that circle bigger. So if you're tossing your grenades into a blob of enemy units, you're getting a And this effect doesn't stack, or doesn't cap. It stacks up hugely if you throw in grenades at a huge group of units. So your skirmishers suddenly become these huge damage dealers if they're attacking a large group of enemies all on top of each other. You know, the infamous death ball of everyone's units all stacked together. Skirmishers are super good. They also have just a general minus armor on stuff they hit, which is very strong as well. The other basic unit is the Infiltrator. Infiltrators are sort of your early game... Oh, I don't care about you, Lansbury. Go away. Infiltrators are your early game sort of stealth units. Eventually your whole army could be stealth, but early game, your Infiltrators, you can armory upgrade them to be stealthy. These are your flankers. These guys run faster if they're near enemy units. They take less damage from range units, so they're a little harder to snipe down, and they do low damage, high attack speed, so they are best at attacking units that are squishy. These guys, you want to sneak around the enemy's formation and attack his ranged units in the back for him, because his ranged units are likely to have low armor and they will do less damage trying to fight him off. Your Infiltrators are for hunting enemy ranged units and low armor targets. What else have we got? Our elite unit is our Fedaykin here. Fedaykin are amazing. They are relatively slow attack speed, but very high power, very hard hitting. They ignore half of the enemy's armor, which is, you know, even better. And they have it's like 120-degree cone sort of off the front of them that they do AoE damage to. So they will hit every guy that is in that cone right in front of them. So a bunch of Fedaykin can mow down the enemy death ball, right? The Fremen have unrivaled area of effect damage. Thanks to our Fedaykin, thanks to our skirmishers, we can really, really punish tightly packed blobs of enemy units. They're fabulous. You should make them and use them all the time. Other stuff to talk about. We've got the mobile turret, our donkey. Mobile turrets got buffed and are actually pretty decent. They have a very respectable power and attack speed. They are totally equivalent to like an Atreides ranger unit or most people's other sort of standard ranged unit. You could just use donkeys as a ranged unit to walk along and shoot at people with their pistols. And then they've got the benefit of being able to say install turret, and they pop out their little anti-air turret. Now they can only attack air units, but they do a lot of damage, and they're really great anti-air for shooting down usually enemy flagships, because you don't see too much other anti-air. But if you pop them into their mobile turret config, they can do a lot of work anti-air style. We also have Spires, which are the light flying units. Spires are pretty good, except they can only hit air units. And you just don't have that much anti-air that you need to fight about, right? It just doesn't come up that often. If you really need to deal with air units, it's often easier just to use those mobile turrets. If for some reason, I can't even imagine a use case for this. Maybe you need to hunt down an enemy, the smuggler's Wraith flagship before it parks and spews poison all over your guys, so Spires can kind of keep it away. I don't know. Spires aren't good. Don't make them. The altar, however, is very good. I think it got nerfed a little bit, but it does cool things. Pardon me. Let me take a drink of water here. Okay, let's talk to the altar. Altar is basically a big blimp, and it has special unique upgrades on it too, unlike all other flagships. It does a pretty decent amount of damage. It does a little AoE, it ignores part of the enemy's armor, it does bonus damage to mechanical units. It's kind of good at just shooting things, but it provides some utility too. So you have 2 slots that you can spend a couple of extra spaceship parts and add special bonuses to it. The ones I like, Sky Facade. Can't be seen outside of combat, so it basically stealths your whole airship. If the rest of your guys are going to be stealthed, you might as well have your airship stealthed as well, so your whole army could be stealthed. I think killing enemy units for spaceship parts is no good. You already need all your spaceship parts to make it in the first place. Regenerating out of combat's fine, it's okay. Getting 50 authority when liberating a village in the region. This is very good. This is sort of a duplicate of the Jamas Counselor's special ability, right? If you're end game and you're liberating villages and you want extra authority, that could be very useful. Ignoring damage from sandstorms or extra speed in them is not really ever useful. It could be extraordinarily situational. Increasing vision range with super long stealth vision could be useful if you're having trouble with assassins and you need to hunt them down. Otherwise, not too useful. You are the stealth guy. You usually aren't too worried about other people's stealth stuff. Sand Cloud is usually my second pick here. All allied military units in a large range around your blimp get stealth. So we do that if we're going to be aggressive and we'll be outside of our territory a lot. So we'll probably already be stealthed in our territory. If we're going to be outside of our territory, we can use this to just have the permanent stealth for the army. If you didn't want to do this, you could still use your hidden tracks a lot. And get something else. The other thing you might like is this one, which is your blimp will provide extra supply for guys outside of your territory. Not always useful because you usually are very good on water and you can get supply in other ways. So typically I take Sky Facade to be invisible, and then I take either Symbols of Freedom for the authority on stuff, or Sand Cloud is probably my default, just to make even more stuff stealthed outside of our territory. But the altar's super good. We like it. We want to build it right away as soon as possible. That's why we get our spaceship parts cooking right away with our recycling plant. Let's look at the armory. Lots of good armory upgrades for everybody in the Fremen tree, but here is what I like. Dry training is fantastic. Extra health per a little extra water. We'll probably have tons of water, so we're happy to add extra health. Sand cover is plenty good, minus damage received from ranged attacks. A lot of people have really strong ranged components in their army, in which case sand cover is very good. Confusing tactics, always good. This guy will always be up front in the melee, so he will receive less damage if there's enemy units at close range to him. That is usually one of my first picks. And then minus damage received in owned or neutral territory. Also good. All of these are good. I think you could go with any of them and be perfectly happy. The skirmisher, I think, is a little more constrained. You want the scatter grenades for the 40% more damage radius, and you want the anti-personal shrapnel for the extra damage versus non-mechanical units. The other things you have are camouflage fabric to make you stealthy, or loud bang to reduce the damage that the things you hit do. But your job is more of a DPS role for skirmishers, so we like those middle two. Infiltrators have that same camouflage fabric. You usually do take this with your infiltrators to get them stealthy early. It lets them do their ranged hunting job even better. And then their second option, you could kind of go different places with. Electronic Scrambler allows them to mess up mechanical targets. So if you're using them to jump on top of the enemy's supporting mechanical units, that could be really useful. If you're just using them in general against the entire faction of Vernius, that could be pretty useful. Chasing Stance is often very good. It slows down the targets so that whatever you're fighting isn't going to be able to kite you. And Focus Mind not being able to be slowed is situationally kind of useful as well. I would typically go Camouflage Fabric and then either Chasing Stance or maybe Scramblers if I see a use for it. Mobile turrets have super cool stuff. We don't really care too much about the deploy and undeploy speed because it's already quite fast. The ambush camouflage is good. It makes it whenever you jump out and shoot something from stealth, it slows down the speed of that thing quite a bit. And it also makes them so they don't attract sandworms outside of combat, so you can kind of set ambushes up with them, I suppose. Shadow Scan is super good. Long range stealth detection. It lets your mobile turrets be anti-assassins, right? If you're worried about enemy assassins sneaking into your villages and killing you, your turrets, whether they're deployed or not, you could just have them be the donkey team with their pistols. They can do a really good job of guarding your villages from assassins thanks to being able to have long-range stealth detection. So that's pretty useful. And then finally, preloaded weapons is usually a go-to, plus 100% power when attacking undetected. And since all you guys will be stealthed all the time, you will always have at least one attack that is undetected. Might as well do double damage with it. Our Fedaykin, you can trade some armor for power, which is fine, but they're already a little squishy, so I usually don't go that way. You could add 10% more damage per enemy units hit by their AoE attack. I like that a lot. A lot of their strength is AoEing down groups of enemies, and this just makes it all the more better. More better. Confusing tactics, minus damage received if the enemy is close up. That's really good. These are melee guys. They will be in the scrum, so taking less damage is great. And the last one is extra power, but requires more command points. It's a lot of extra power, but spending extra command points is not good. We would much rather, excuse me, we'd much rather have a wider army, I think, than just a stronger Fedaykin. Though I can imagine some scenarios where that's useful. All in all, good upgrades. We like those across the board. Let's see, we talked armory. Let's talk, real quick, whether it's intended or not, if we give our, we should note that the camouflage fabric upgrade here says cannot be seen outside of combat. Well, right now, like I said, I'm not sure if it's intended or not. Camouflage fabric also says when you are outside of combat and not seen, you don't lose any supplies. So your infiltrators and if your skirmishers, if you gave it to them, could just wander around the desert and never lose supplies. You could wander to the other end of the map and steal these guys' points of interest back here and never lose supplies. That might be a bug. That might be intended and not written down in the tooltip. Who knows? But the camouflage fabrics also prevent you from losing supply when you're out in the world. Pretty crazy. We talked about donkeys. Oh, the donkey G is the hotkey to deploy or undeploy your donkeys. Same with everything that deploys and undeploys, you know, siege drones, everything like that that has a deployment kind of stat. G is your hotkey for popping them in and out of it. Just FYI. Heroes real quick. Let's talk heroes. We got Chani or Othame. Chani is my recommendation. She synergizes with the stealth gameplay that is so prevalent. She also says your stealth units that aren't detected run 30% faster, which is insanely fast, and they don't attract sandworms. So as long as you're stealthed, you could run around without worrying about Shai Hulud coming up and eating you. And then enemy units dying, giving you intel, is really just a little bit of gravy on top. Shani herself is stealthed. She's a flanker, so she runs extra fast in melee range, and then she has this ability Ambush. So you pop this ability, all of your units in a long range around her get 100% more power on their first attack for a short period of time. So you send Chani with your army, you pop this Ambush skill, and then everybody's going to do double damage, you know, critical hits on their very first attack. So it's just adding even more to that stealth alpha strike, jump out, surprise people gameplay. Chani's great, we love her. She's pretty squishy though, you gotta keep a close eye on her. Othame is actually a ranged unit. He does cool stuff, but he's a lot harder to make work. Ally units with no units of the same kind do more damage, and then enemy units will do less damage depending on how many of them they are. He also slows guys. So this is saying Othame is more of, if you're gonna send, you know, 5 guys over here to attack and 5 guys over here, you're kind of like poking at all the different borders. Othame, it makes your small military poking forces stronger, but he doesn't help out your big death ball armies very much. And then his last upgrade is all military units in long range deal way more damage and take way less damage, but it only works if there's 8 or less units around him. So he needs to be in kind of a small army to even use his ability. So again, he is the small group sort of guerrilla fighter. A couple guys attack here, a couple guys attack over there. I don't find that to be too impactful a play style. Oftentimes your end game is going to come down to great big fights, so it's harder to do the small picking at people. So I choose Chani 99% of the time when I'm playing Fremen. She's great, we love her. Whew. Chapter 4. May he keep the world for his people. Let's talk end game win cons. We already did a little bit. Hegemony is your win con. What do you do if it's not hegemony? Oh boy. It'll get tricky. We talked about different ways to get influence, so you can kind of do the authority rush for governor, because governor is, you can get eligible for it relatively easily. The trouble is, it's just easy to stop. Even if you win it once, it's going to come back up for vote a second time. You're going to get a loss of rights, or the governor charter itself will come back up, and you need to win a second vote for it. And if the lobby is paying attention at all, they will stop you at that second vote, even if they weren't able to stop you for the first one. They could just, you know, people having innate votes, people being able to save up their own influence. The only time it becomes relevant is maybe if someone else is dead and it's maybe 1v2 rather than 1v3 for votes. If those other 2 players are not likely, are not leaning into the political sphere and they don't have their own influence stockpiles built up, or they don't have extra votes, maybe then if someone's dead you can kind of get ahead of them and seize governorship, but that is a rare and unique scenario. So governorship is a dream. You could kind of chase it, but it's not viable. It'll get stopped. Can the Fremen chome? Sorta. You do get a lot of wide-ranging bonuses, right? You'll get all kinds of extra solari per your allied sieges. You'll get extra solari per your special regions and through neutral regions and through liberating villages. You can make pretty good money with the Fremen. You'll oftentimes have a lot of spice fields because you're going to take a lot of space. You might have 4 or 5 or 6 excuse me. Dying out here. You might have 4 or 5 or 6 spice fields. Now you're gonna get less out of them because your harvesting teams are not as efficient as a lot of people's are. But I can see a world where the Fremen can show them. It could be surprisingly strong, even with their relatively meager built-out villages. They get a lot of different extra benefits just from their trades and stuff. And a lot of that also will depend on getting good economic boons for your neutral villages that you're ally with. 2% extra resources per controlled special region is a really strong one. 10% extra production in your villages is really strong. I don't think we got it this game, but there's one that's like minus 20% to upkeep. That's really strong. If you get great siege alliances that give you those sort of productions and you're leaning into it, I could imagine a world where you could show them up, but it's a lot more difficult than some other factions could be. Can the Fremen assassinate? They sure can. Fremen are actually great at assassinating. And why are they great at assassinating? Because one thing we didn't mention is your sieges, if you are allied with them, can be rally points. You could rally point around your main base, and since you don't have airfields, you can rally point straight to sieges. So if I rally point up here, I don't even have the tech to build assassins in this game, but if I rally pointed up here and I built an assassin, the assassin would pop out right up here next to the siege. So you can use that for really, really interesting infiltration cell placement. You'll probably, if you've got Mother Ramallo, you'll have lots of intel, so you can use that to power your assassinations. You do need to then, go down this blue tree and get at least spying logistics, probably nefarious contacts. But you can do some interesting stuff by being able to rally to sieges behind people. Normally if someone was assassinating the smugglers and they were down here, the smugglers would assume that they were, infiltration cells along the territory by me, because I've got to be able to run my assassins to them. But if I can just run my assassins from the siege behind them, we can suddenly, there's a lot more opportunity for where infiltration cells could be. So Fremen, deceptively rather good at assassinating people. The caveat being, if people have been attacking and pillaging sieges, once a siege gets pillaged, you can no longer rally to it. So that's less good. If that happens, they're sort of taking off your opportunities, your assassination opportunities off the table. Because you can't rally to like an airport up at the front lines, your assassins, if you can't rally to a siege, are going to have to come out of your main base and then have a long walk to their assassination cell. So if you don't have that siege rally option, it's much more difficult to assassinate someone. Can Fremen do domination? Not really. Despite having a wildly powerful army that can do a lot of things, you're going to struggle busting bases. The Fremen, the strength of the Fremen army is a lot of AoE damage, and blowing up a base is a strong single target damage race, which the Fremen are not well suited to. If you've crushed the guy and he's got no army and you prep yourself some defense breaches, sure, you could kill a base, just not as quick as a lot of people can. So base crushing is not a particularly viable option for the Fremen, even though you can sneak up. I will say, if you wanted to be very persistent about it, you can sort of stealth into someone's base and start attacking it, get it down a little bit, maybe you stealth in again another time, maybe you stealth in again, second or third time's the charm. So you could be very persistent, but eventually they'll just leave their army at their base, and when you stealth in, they'll kill your army there under the base, and you're not going to have a lot of recourse to that. You're not going to win a fight under their base in an end game kind of scenario. So domination, not really. And because of that, let's lean into the tips and tricks portion. Because you can't particularly blow up someone's base, how do you bully for profit and not for hate? You've got your strong early game army. You want to use it to take stuff from people. You want to establish borders that are favorable to you. Maybe you want to pillage their lands. But what you don't want is you don't want to initiate a blood feud, right? You don't want to have beaten the smugglers so badly that they have no choice but to war against you and only you for the rest of the game. Usually a blood feud between 2 players means one of those other 2 players who is not in the blood feud is probably going to win. So you want to pick on people and take what you want from them, but not so much that they feel like they have no option left but to, war with you. And how do you do that? You do that with communication, really. You say, hey, I've got to have the well of riches. I'm happy to keep those borders. I might come over and pillage you, but I'm not gonna, do anything. I'm not gonna take your land, and I'm not gonna, attack your base or anything. We're just gonna keep that. I'm happy to have that border there. Or, maybe you come over and say, hey, I'm sorry, Baron, you can't have this village or that village. I've got to liberate those two, but I'm not going to come any further. You want the Baron to not feel like you are the existential threat to him, right? If it's just some border skirmishes, just typically, pillaging is kind of understandable. Liberating is very frustrating. It makes people mad. And annexing is one of the worst things you could do. You annex someone's territory, they're going to want that back unless you're very clear, like, hey, I've got to have this territory. I'm not going to go any farther. You kind of want to diffuse the tension as much as you can, even while you're sort of taking what you want. You don't want to get into blood feuds if you can avoid it. Whew. Use your siege friends. So like we already said, with sieges, you can rally to your sieges, but not only can you rally to sieges, but if for some reason I was out and about and pillaging smuggler lands, I can just walk my whole army up, and then in a circle around the siege will actually resupply your troops. As long as you're allied with them, they will refill supply of units around them, and they will heal units that are around them and out of combat. So sieges serve as sort of forward bases for you. Along those lines, you don't want other people to destroy the sieges. You really like having sieges in their lands that you can help out. Now, if they come and destroy the sieges, you can still trade, you still have your alliance, you still have your buildings with them, but you can no longer rally to them, and they'll no longer heal or supply you, which is a big pain. So, if you see someone gearing up to fight a siege, maybe you get your guys all together and you worm right in to save your siege friends, and then you're clear with that guy, hey, I'm not trying to kill you, but you're not allowed to blow that siege up, or I will come fight you and then maybe pillage your lands afterwards to punish you for that kind of thing. Savvy players will blow up their sieges in a Fremen game, and you would love to jump in and save the sieges whenever possible to keep that from happening. Backfield harassment. So that's sort of like we said, you can rally to the backfield, you could sneak guys in stealth. It's really, really powerful. Like the Fremen can leave relatively small militia in their backfield because they don't got to worry about raiders. If someone else is leaving a very small militia in their backfield, you can cause a lot of trouble. You could just take your stealth infiltrators that can walk across the map, and they could take out one or two militia. If they're not, or if there's no militia, they can just go back in and start sieging things. You can cause a lot of trouble with someone that has not adequately fortified their backfield, especially if there is a friendly siege that can get you there. In the end game, you can use those sieges really to push. I don't really have any access to the ECAS here, but if the ECAS are about to win, I could either send my army up or delete my army and rebuild it at a siege, and just have everyone popping right out of this siege, and suddenly I'm deep in his lands causing trouble. So you absolutely want to keep those sieges in mind, as they are all sort of forward military bases for you. Super cool stuff to work with, a lot of fun. Another tip and trick, keep your Thopters busy. That's not a Thopter, that's a Spire. Where are my Thopters at? Your Thopters, because they don't have that secondary job of watching over your harvesting team, they're going to go out, they're going to explore the whole world, and then they're going to come back in their sit at base with nothing to do. So you always want one Thopter on auto to go out and explore any new points of interest that pop up, but your other Thopters you should take off of auto, and you should send them out into the world to just be your spies, keep an eye on things, right? This is extra relevant with Fremen, like I said, because their Thopters don't really have another job, so we got to keep them out there looking for stuff. Let's talk. Watch your stealth guys so they don't get sit out of combat. So one thing that happens, especially with the likes of Chani making everyone do tons and tons of damage, if your whole army is stealthed and you're going to fight the enemy, most armies, you click on the enemy's guys and your guys will run in and they'll just rumble and kind of auto attack each other. If your army is stealthed and you click on a guy and then you just kill that guy right away, the guys that didn't unstealth will still be stealthed, and they will not auto-attack into the enemy. So if you're doing a stealth initiation, you want to make sure that anybody that is stealth gets in and gets in the fight, because if you kill the initial target too quickly, your guys might stand outside of combat, just stealth, until you give them another attack target. So keep an eye on that. If you're attacking with a stealth army, I think it might work if you shift-click a bunch of different targets to attack them. Otherwise, you want to manually make sure, okay, you guys fight this guy, you guys fight this guy, you guys fight that guy. Otherwise, they might be standing around not doing anything, and that is not at all what you want from your sneak attack. Value the caves. Yes, so the energy sources in the ceremonial caves are unlike no one else in the game can scale up their military power like the Fremen by just taking certain land, right? The ceremonial caves, if you find the special, what is the region? It's like the volcano, maybe? I don't know where it is. The special region that's the volcano that gives you the double bonus to energy sources also gives you the double bonus to ceremonial caves, so it's a 10% instead of a 5% bonus. Really, really, really put a heavy value on getting ceremonial caves anywhere you can, and if you're trying to figure out what land to take from other people, you would love to take their energy sources to get more ceremonial caves to stack up more of your military power. Because you're pushing for hegemony ultimately always comes down to a military struggle, and you need the most powerful troops you possibly can. So, highly prioritize energy sources. Harvester teams can fight, kind of. Not really. They do a tiny bit of damage. And what you can do is, if for some reason you were very strapped early on in the game, you can have your little harvester team's tank, actually. This is a bad example, but because they've got a lot of armor and health, early on in the game, if you were in a tough fight, you could have a harvester team tank for your men while your men fight, and your harvester teams even could, do some pillaging. They could stand there in the circle while you're pillaging or annexing something. Pretty silly. Likewise, if you have an assassin, your assassin can also siege things. If you see someone's got in their backlands, they've got something that has no militia on it, you could run an assassin or a stealth guy up, and they could walk right into the stealth place and instantly start pillaging it or liberating it. If you've got the Stalwart Alliance, so that an adjacent siege could send people out to help it, maybe you walk a stealth guy or an assassin up, this village that has no militia, you say you're going to liberate it, and then all of a sudden this siege over here will send an army to help you liberate. Really funny, really fun. You can do some crazy stuff with all your stealth units. Ooh, anything else? Yes, finally, the Fremen's job is really their job in the game is really one of looking for greedy plays and punishing them, right? If the Baron is chomping up like crazy, he has so much money and he's invested in all of his yellow tech, well, that is a great opportunity for you to go and stop that from happening, right? You are kind of the de facto military peacekeepers of the world, almost. If the Baron's being greedy, go punish the Baron for his greed. Take his spice fields from him, pillage his lands. If the smugglers have gone into super early craft shops, well, go beat him up and burn his craft shops down, right? And tell people you're doing it, right? Tell the rest of the lobby, hey, smugglers are making too much, I'm going to try and push them. And usually everybody else will be totally happy with you for doing that. The smugglers won't be, but you can kind of position yourself as the world police here, whose job it is to kick down whoever's in the lead. And if you do position yourself in that kind of light, you will have other people on your side while you do some of that kicking and punching and stealing from other folks. Anything else? I think that might be it. My God, we might have done it. That might be a Fremen guide. I'm sure there's more I've forgotten. If I can think of anything else, I'll toss it down in the comments. Questions are always welcome. Quick shout out to contributors, people that messaged me with extra things to think of and extra cool ideas and strategies. Wilfred, Skylighter, Lucas, David Sajid, Kenry, many more. All the folks in our Discord that we toss ideas back and forth with all day long. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful for you guys. Fremen are a really, really fun faction to play. I think they're difficult to win with due to that sort of the nature of hegemony or bust, but you always have fun with them. They're always a good time, and I'm sort of excited to see if maybe they get a little bit of extra buffs in the future, or maybe some varied different access to other win conditions. For now, they're very fighty and fun doing it. Hopefully, you guys are able to make some use out of that rambling stream of consciousness. Thank you once again, and I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one.